All right. Hey guys, welcome again to another interview with a dear friend this time, not a family member this time. But we get to hear from a really special guest here about his experiences in the medical field, as you can probably tell right off the bat, with the white coat and the scrubs underneath. So we've got tonight or today, when we're watching this, we've got Dr. Alex Hwang with us. Alex, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So, Alex, we're going through kind of interviewing different people who are in the medical field and kind of getting their different
Mhm.
perspectives on the body systems. So, we can tell real quickly, I introduced you as a doctor. You're wearing doctor clothing. So, what is your job title and what do you do at your or for your job?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for having me, and I'm really excited to share a little bit about what I do with your students, and hopefully this isn't after lunchtime and they're not falling asleep. But I am a doctor, and doctors can do different things. Specifically, I'm a medical doctor, so I help people. There's veterinarians, there's PhDs. So when you use the term doctor, it can be a little vague, but specifically, I'm a medical doctor, so I help people. I work at a hospital. Even more specifically, I'm a surgeon. So there is different types of surgery you can do, and I specialize in urologic surgery. Urology is a probably can be a pretty new term for a lot of you. So to allow me to explain a little bit, urology works a little bit with the excretory system. I imagine you went over in science class. The excretory system can include your bowels, the GI system, even the sweat ducts in your skin. And so specifically with urology, we focus on the kidneys. Now, if that doesn't make quite enough sense, everything in the world has a process to it. Uh, Take one, for example, even filtering the water in the kitchen or wherever you get your drinking water, that water needs to be cleaned. So our bodies are constantly making lots of dirt and waste, and we need a way to get it out of our bloodstream. And specifically, our kidneys, which are located in our bellies, when the scientific word is for abdomen, um, it enables to filter our blood constantly throughout the day. And so it does that by getting blood from the heart. And I help to make sure people's kidneys are healthy. But in addition to the kidneys, work with the bladder and the genitourinary system as well. So a day in the life that I get to do is I get to help people. Everyone gets to help people in some capacity. Your teacher, Mr. Buckler here, is helping you guys teach. But when people are sick with their suffering from some physical problem, I get a chance to meet them, see what their problem is, and make a decision and get them back to feeling better. So what that can look like for me is it depends on the day. Some days I wake up in the morning real early before most of you are probably out of bed, and I go to the hospital and I see patients inside the hospital and I take care of them. And then when the morning is still young, we'll go and do surgery. Some of these surgeries are scheduled and patients come in and expecting a surgery, and some of them are emergent surgeries. And then some days I get to have a nice morning where I start at 8 a.m. and finish the afternoon, and I just see patients in the clinic. So I don't go to the hospital. I'm just there in the clinic. Maybe when you've been to a doctor's appointment and you go to see your doctor and you sit in a room called an exam room, I get to see patients inside there and get to help them out with other problems that they have.
That's awesome to hear. That's neat to hear your take on it too. Thank you for clarifying too the doctor range that there is, and that you specifically are a medical doctor. That's helpful for us to keep in mind. Um, One, just to make sure we get to the right doctor when we need that certain type of doctor, but then also
Mm-hmm.
kind of make those brain spaces to categorize those things. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So all you do, which is can be a wide range of things as you shared, can you give us a glimpse of maybe like what got you to doing these things that you're doing today of doing clinical work, but then also surgical stuff? So scheduled,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, and also like emergency situations. Can you give us a little glimpse? So I've got my middle school students that are watching this right now. Um, who me sitting here thinking maybe I want to be a medical doctor. Which should I do? I want to maybe do this or that. Um, for you, what did that what did that journey look like for you? Maybe let's start from high school where kind of things open up for others. From high school until where you are now, what has that journey been like? What has that included, those different steps for you?
Yeah. So great question. All along my journey, man, I remember back when I was a kindergarten student, like 5 years old. I was never the smartest kid in the class. I was never the one that would get the highest grade on the test, especially on early on when I was a young kid. In middle school, I started to do better in school, and I was a very active student. I wanted to learn in the classroom, but it wasn't like what I found a lot of joy in. I really enjoyed playing sports and being involved in extracurricular activities. I was a part of like some history stuff and some Bible studies we held at the school. And then I've always going through high school kept up those interests and kept trying to get better at those interests. And I happened, and I think God gave me the ability to do well on tests and know that I could study pretty well and enjoy it. And so my dad was pretty good, as well as a lot of my teachers, at getting me exposure to different fields. As I got to the point where I was getting ready to graduate high school, I would start to shadow. Shadow is basically a activity that you can do as a middle school student, as a high school student, and you can go to work with someone and just watch them and see what they do for work and see if you find it interesting. So when I was a high school student, my dad was good about getting me involved and watching people who worked on cars or engineers or various teachers or a doctor. And all it required was me sending an email or talking to someone face to face saying, "Hey, I don't really know what you do, but can I come learn from you for a day?" And most people will be really excited to share what they do with you. And if you are interested, you can go learn with them. And then you can find out, man, that day I did not enjoy. I do not want to do that at all. I do not want to work on cars, or I want to be a doctor, or whatever those answers to those questions you may have, you can find that out. So that when you go to college, you're not, as lost. And that can be pretty daunting to have to make a decision for the rest of your life. That it might seem like that. And you can have some more direction of what kind of subjects do I want to study in college? And then what can I do after college? So in college, I knew I wanted to go to med school. I didn't know what type of doctor I wanted to be, but I knew I had to get into medical school. And this kind of lays out what every doctor has to go through in order to eventually have a job, make money, and fulfill our calling to help people and be where God wants us to be. And so I take all these classes you may or may not have heard of, chemistry classes, physics classes, also like some basic English classes. And if you do well in all those classes and you still, show lots of experience and interest, you can then go to medical school. You have to take a lot of tests and it's a lot of studying, but if you get into medical school, then you spend a few more years where you learn just about medicine. And they try to teach you as much medicine as they can, anywhere from how the brain works to how your heart works to how your lungs work, kidneys work, your muscles work, and then how you can make those organs in your body better when they get sick. And so that's really cool. It was really exciting. You learn and study a lot. You take a lot of tests. We can talk more about that if that's something you guys are interested in. And then after medical school, you decide, hey, I want to be this type of doctor. So, we might use the term again, doctor loosely, but there are many different types of doctors. And if you're having a headache, you don't necessarily want to go to a doctor that doesn't deal with headaches. If you have a doctor that deals with hearts, you want to go to that doctor that deals with hearts called a cardiologist if you have heart issues, because everything is so detailed, so specific, so nuanced. That's how God made us, that we just have so much to study, so much to learn, so much we still are learning about the body and what God's creation is. So that way we can help people. So that way when things go wrong, we know what to do, or at least we have a good idea of how to help you guys. And so after residency, then I'll be able to go out, start a practice, That's what we call basically where we work a practice, because we're trying to get better and better every day, practice medicine, and I can go out and help people who have urologic issues. I don't think I've covered this yet, but what a urologist does, if you ever known someone who's had a kidney stone, a urologist is one who can treat a kidney stone. We can actually take those kidney stones out of the body and make someone feel so much better. We deal with a lot of cancer, which can be a very serious topic, as well as infections, um, deformities, maybe some problems when children are born with problems with the urologic system. We can help them get back to feeling normal as well. So urology is a very wide field, and it's kind of too much to talk about here in this short little segment, but it's very exciting, and there's a lot of ways I get to help people every day.
That's fantastic to hear, like the steps of, like, when you were middle school, it wasn't necessarily that you were the like the top of your class at this stage in your life. And so, and it can be an encouragement to a lot of my students who think like, oh, I want to be a medical doctor, but right now I don't feel like my grades are that way. And it's like you said, like you still got time to continue to grow as a person
Mhm.
until you get to that point where you even are past high school. So it's quite a good bit of time, which is great.
Yeah, David, I'm a basketball fan, and some people always say trust the process, and I encourage all your students to focus on good habits, whether that's playing a musical instrument, whether that's sport or the classroom, or if you can do all three of those and be super talented, build good habits to where you're always practicing, you're always dedicated, and eventually, before you know it, years will pass and you'll be pretty good at that craft.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree. So I think you kind of hit on a couple of these things already. So you're working with primarily the excretory system, and at this point, when we're watching this, we've gone over just a little bit of it, but we haven't just yet. We'll get to that in a moment. For me and my students will, but for you right now, we want to ask you kind of maybe elaborate a little bit more on the type of disorders, or diseases that you treat, as it relates to the excretory system, and maybe with this as well, how does technology get incorporated into dealing with those diseases or disorders or whatever they may be?
yeah. So if you like technology, medicine is a great field for you to consider going into one day. Medicine and the hospital and doctors, we work with a ton of technology. David, if you were to come to me and say, Doctor, I've got horrible pain right here in my belly. It is just horrible. I know something is wrong. Help me. I can, talk with you about when did your pain start? Are you having any other symptoms? And I can start to narrow down what are some likely diagnoses that can probably be the source of your pain. But also we can order lots of labs, and then we can run those through machines. They can give us information about, are you normal or not normal? Do you have signs of infection? Are your blood counts okay? Is your kidney function okay? Are your electrolytes normal? Are you staying well hydrated, drinking lots of water? But then even then we can take lots of pictures inside of your body without ever going inside of your body. And I think that this is something that's been new within the past 50 years of human history, that we're able to put someone through a machine and get all these pictures of their body. Those tests are called like a CT test or an MRI, and we can see inside of someone without ever cutting into them. We can get a great picture of what's going on, and oftentimes able to diagnose them much quicker and figure out what the cause is of your pain and get you treated that much faster. So technology plays a huge role with just treating patients. But if you really get nuanced in urology, we use stuff called ultrasound, which basically is a machine that can also look inside your body and get pictures that has no side effects. We have ways to treat people with different medicines that require technology. We can actually fuse all these instruments together. If you ever look at your computer screen and your iPhone, imagine just having all of that coordinated in one, and then multiplying that times 10. The amount of power uh, available to you at your fingertips is pretty awesome. So I liked video games growing up as a kid, and I still feel like I get to play with video games still in a different little way. It may not be on a PlayStation or an Xbox, but I get to definitely have my own share of fun with that.
Yeah,
So I think that helps us with being able to treat patients really well.
that's neat. I think that'll really interest my students, that video game, that word. But then also the fact that like you get to incorporate all these things to kind of solve the mystery of you're kind of a human body detective in a way, where you are
Hmm.
figuring out why is this happening, and you get to use all of these different things that give you clues, added clues to figure it out, and then plus your know-how and those different resources, you can solve the mystery, solve the puzzle, or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
um, that's really exciting, I think, for me, and probably will never be a medical doctor. So I hope it is for my students that can still sh- shoot for that goal.
Yeah, if you
So
like escape rooms or problem solving, definitely you get to problem solve with each patient that walks in the door and get to find out the answer to the clue. At least that's the goal. We tried our best to find
yeah,
the answers.
yeah. So for those students, they're listening to this and they're like, I really, I'd really do like those things, or that sounds really fascinating, or I think maybe I've got those skill sets to be able to do that, or whatever. What advice could you give those students, especially, but maybe just all my students in general, as they aim, and you've already shared some, thankfully, but as they aim to reach those sort of goals of being either a medical doctor or nurse or PA or
Mhm.
whatever, what's some advice you can give them? Um, Maybe reiterating the advice you gave, or maybe some new advice you can give them as they aim on that same kind of
Sure,
journey that you've been on.
sure. Yeah. So students, I think the most important advice I can give you, and this might be the most important part of this whole talk, is to have a relationship with God. Um, I have to pray every day to get through each day and to know that I'm doing what God wants me to do. Now, if you want to be a doctor, great. You just got to make sure you pray every day. If you want to go be a national park ranger, you got to pray every day and make sure that you're doing the best you can. I can't tell you, Mr. Buckler, how many times that I wanted to quit. I, almost failed a calculus test in college, or I was getting so tired of studying for the 20th hour of a day, or finals week was just brutal, or, you know, my grandmother passed away, or, something horrible happened in life. And I just wanted to say, look, this is too hard. I can't do it. But the truth is, we can't do anything on our own. And that's why you really just got to pray and make sure that if this is where God wants you to be, that he'll see you through it. And everything has a lesson to be taught. So, surround yourself with people who can help you. Remember what's important. Remember what the long-term goal is. Don't do anything for your own selfish desires, because you'll get burned out and then you won't want to do it. And then you'll feel like you've just wasted time. But um, uh, if you do all of that, study hard, read a lot, find things interesting, find what the book is, what subject you're learning about, find ways to make it interesting, because then it won't be as much work and then it can actually be fun. And if you can do do work for, do what do they say? If you do for work what you do for fun, you'll never work a day in your life.
Mm.
And so that can be true. And just every day, just do the best you can. Your parents are putting you through school right now, so get the best lesson you can out of the day. You won't get it every day. You'll have some bad days. Things will happen, but then just pick yourself back up. And it's about the long game. We use the term delayed gratification, because you're not going to feel like you've arrived when you reached eighth grade. When you get to high school and you're walking the halls, you may not feel like you've arrived, and then you'll just say, I just want to graduate. Okay, well, then you graduate, you go to college. Or if you don't go to college, you go to trade school, or you start working, or you start a family. But then there's the next step. In my case, it was residency in medical school. But for you all, it might be something else. But then what? Are you just going to work forever and work your 40 years and call it quits and retire and be a grandparent. You never know what the next step is, and you're never promised the next step. So I really encourage you guys just to find your relationship with God. Pray both with yourself, but pray with your friends, pray with your parents, those who love you.
Yeah. I could not agree more. The trivial things in life is like Ecclesiastes talks about is vanity. Like life is full of vanities, and if we don't just appreciate it and thank God for it and have a relationship with Him in that, then all for nothing. It's just vanity. It's just dust. It's so that's very impactful. Thank you for sharing that. And I needed to hear that even too. So that's good. Thank you, Alex, Dr. Wong, for that. So as we kind of wrap this to a close a little bit, got a fun little question for you. So
Sure.
for you, it's been interesting. I'll ask my students this in 10 plus years to get their takes on it. For you though, what's a core memory that you have from when you were in 7th grade?
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember a lot of my 7th grade year. I have a good memory and bad memory I'll share with you guys. I'll give you my bad memory first. I tried to play middle school basketball on the varsity team. I was not the fastest player, so I did anything I could. And so we often had to run lots of suicides if we didn't make our free throws. And suicides is where you run on to the free throw line and back, run through the half court line and back, run the whole court and back. And you got to do it in like, I think it was less than 32 seconds. And it was always 50-50 if I could make it in time. And if I didn't make it in time, then I had to do it again. So for bigger kids like me, that was not a fun experience. So I remember that. But a fun experience I do have is we had a very large parking lot in my school. And I guess this was the geek inside of me, but we made these little paper airplanes, and we actually took paper clips and stapled it to the paper airplanes. And then we took like about 50 rubber bands, tied them all together, and then we shot this paper airplane, and it flew across the whole entire parking lot. Like, this is a parking lot that has like 200 cars in it. And so that thing just
That's awesome.
I could still make it today. I still remember how to make those. So that was a lot of fun. We would do that every day when school got out. And finally we got to the day we made one, and it went the whole parking lot. So that was great.
Man, that's awesome. I might have to get that little trade secret from you. I'm sure some of my students would be pretty interested in that. That'd be awesome. Very cool.
Sure.
Well, Dr. Wong, thank you so much for meeting with us to kind of get your take on your medical history, like your schooling and stuff, and then also what you're doing right now medically. And then also your journey from there and how that relates to my students, and how it can impact them. And I think hopefully, I think we'll be able to see the value in hearing from real life people who are even in our city, in Chattanooga, and the way that they can help us as we either think about the future or just live life right now, especially as we walk and follow Christ. Well, that was excellent. Thank you, Dr. Wong, for that. Without further ado, we will say farewell. Thank you once again for meeting with us and taking this time out to be with us.
Thanks for having me, Mr. Buckler.
Absolutely.